So look, my name is David Coen. I'm working with Sheep Ireland. We've been with Sheep Ireland a good few number of years now. I'm a sheep farmer myself, as are most of the staff in Sheep Ireland. So look, when people think of Sheep Ireland, they think of a bunch of people in suits down looking in front of laptops telling us how to farm. And look, it's nothing further from the truth. We're sheep farmers like yourselves. We're hugely interested in increasing the quality of rams and quality of sheep that are going out there. So look, who are we? We're established in 2009. We are a non-for-profit. So look at anyone that thinks, even with the genotyping, that we make money out of it. We don't. If you saw my salary, you definitely wouldn't think we make money at all. So look, we're all about putting money back into sheep farmers' pockets and trying to produce as much as we can and as much information to feed back into commercial farmers. Like a lot of people, especially breeders, think that Sheep Ireland is for ram producers or ram breeders. Sheep Ireland is for commercial farmers, and it's for getting information of what these rams will do when they go into commercial flocks, so that when you buy your rams, you'll have more information on them rams, and that's what the main pitch is. It's for. So we're all we're in increased sheep farm profitability, being our big thing, and we're guided by a board of industry stakeholders. So look, there's members from breed societies, there's members from producer groups, all that, and they produce a stakeholder board, and they come up with the decisions. We pass that through the board. If these members from these groups are happy to represent them, are happy with the information we're providing, that we'll go with that, and that's how it works. Look, we're not just people in suits just making decisions. We go through all different areas to ensure that the best information is being put forward. So where did we start? So this was our networks back in 2012. We had a few with ICBF, Lamb Plus and CPT, and you can see here over the years, back up to 2024 now where we are. So we've a huge amount of projects going on with the likes of Teagasc and Keepack and Dawn Meats, where we're getting information directly, slaughter data directly from the factories. We have our test projects here with Teagasc, and our own CPT program that, as we explained earlier, that Brian is in at the moment. We have our OVGINs, our OV data projects that have gone through. So you can see here the amount of information that's coming through from commercial data in feeding into this project. This isn't just pedigree farmers giving us a bit of information and us pulling information out of the sky. This is a huge amount of data and a huge collaboration by an awful lot of sheep farmers right around the country, and sheep producers as well as sheep farmers, pulling this information in. So look, at all it is about getting as much data as we possibly can to give as much informative decisions to ye as buyers as we possibly can. So what are our sources? So our sources at the moment are our Lamb Plus programs. This is both the pedigree and commercial and heel farmers recording with us, sending in that information, and I'll go through what information we look for in that. We have our century progeny testing with Brian here and with John Large. Look, an awful lot of information, a lot of years and a lot of hard work put in by everyone to get this commercial data. We also have the Teagasc OV data and the Teagasc Better Farm program sending in commercial data. So you can see it's a big push. The majority of our data coming now is coming from commercial farms, and the majority of that data is having an influence right from lambs being born, killing straight to the factory, and everything in between. So what do we get the farmers to do? So look, there's a huge range in this, especially on the pedigree side. So what we look for a lot of lambing information. So they will record the lamb's weight at birth. They record the lambing difficulty, the yow's milk, all the different levels. We also take a 40-day weight of the lambs. So this is where the lambs will come in anywhere from 20 to 60 days of age. Main reason we're getting them to do that is because we're able to see yow's milk in that first 6 weeks. That has the biggest influence. So we can then feed that back in to see how milky the yow is coming through. We have our 100-day weight then, which is the lamb's own growth weight at that stage up to weaning. And then we have a 150-day weight, is where our rams are being produced from their own growth rate at that stage after weaning, to see how they perform. We then have a few animal movements, and the farmers, we come right back around again to recording the sires going to their rows, and we do the pregnancy scanning. So look, there's a lot of information there. We have farmers that go from huge levels, and there's a good few of them here in front of me, where their DQIs, which are their data quality index, is the level that we set the farmers at. The more information they give us here, the higher their DQI is going to be. So we farmers from DQIs from 95%, and then we've other farmers where maybe they gave in as much data as they can, but maybe they missed out on some. So look, at the more data that's fed in and the higher that DQI, the more confidence you can have in information, because the farmer has sent in all this data for them. So what then is how do they collect the information? So look, this is a tool that we have available. It's the Lamb Plus app. This is what we use for when we come out doing 40-day weights here, and we've done it in Brian's and John's flock and all that sort of thing. It works offline, so you can either be online on your phone or you can work offline. Allows for instant data to be captured. So once we're reading that animal's information, and say that lamb is 20 kilos, we put the weight, it goes directly up in the sheep garden. There's no writing it down to then come back and go and get the laptop out to type it all in again later. It's done there out on farm, and it's done quick and easy. So we can add Joes, we can do the mating, we can do the pregnancies, all these sort of information can be done through the Sheep Ireland app. And look, it's been a very useful tool. When we be here on Brian's flock or on John's flock, we can be doing anywhere, we'd be doing weights of ewes, weights of lambs, body conditions, DAG scores and all that information. We'd be doing anywhere up on 200, 250 ewes an hour. So even if you took that, you took maybe a lesser bit of a scales or any sort of thing like that, it is a very quick system. Okay, you read the tags, type it straight into the phone, and it's gone, done and dusted. Go home and have a cup of tea. There's no need to be going home. I have to write all this up and bloody Sheep Ireland and throw the weights in front of the dash of the van. No, it's good and simple, easy to use, and it's there and available to you. If any you want to have a look at that, if you go to the App Store, look up the Sheep Ireland app. We have a free trial on that. It's called Demo. This is your username is Demo, password Demo. Just go in, have a fiddle around with it. Very useful tool. And there will be sheep up on that, and you can see how the data is collected. So why do we need urostars? To make the most informed breeding decision, and look, Stephen kind of hit on it earlier. It's to get the most information we can. Look, we're all into let's say their anthelmintics, or we're all into the meal we have, or the silage quality that we're doing, but we really need to know what are these animals made up of, and the more information we have, the better the decision we can make for the type of flock or for the type of sheep that we want to produce. And look, the more information we have, the more profitable we can be on that. Why are EBVs important? So EBVs, an economic breeding value. So again, your Eurostar. Why are these important? It's to distinguish out what your different farms and how animals will perform on the different farms. We've all gone to sales and seen huge big rams in one pin and maybe lesser rams in a different pin, and we say, oh sure, these rams are way better, and next thing we start to test them out and there's a big gap in between. So it's taking out the whole intensive flock, creep feeding, super perennial ryegrass, as big as could be, pump feeding the whole time, versus a flock where the lambs are let out into a field. You might see them 6 months later and they don't get a bit of meal. And trying to distinguish that. So distinguish between this big, fat, heavy lad and how he'd look here, versus if we let him out here, he might just look a bit rougher come the back end of the year. So it's phenotype, which is our information, which is our weight, versus our genotype versus our environment. So it's kind of lamb weight, and it's how his genetic makeup is, and the farm effect. So you could have the best performing lamb in this flock here, this big heavy lamb, and if we put him into the extensive farm, he could look like this. And if we took this lamb who's light here and put him into an intensive farm, he could look like a super lamb. So we're trying to take out that environmental aspect of it. And this is a simple example I have here. With three farms. We farm number 1, farm number 2, farm number 3, based off our progeny growth rate and average daily gain. So we'd say, oh, sure, the blue ram here is 100% the top ram that's going. Like, look, he's the highest growth rates. There's no beating him. He's the ram to do. But what we do is we incorporate linkage into our evaluations, and that's what we do here, and that's what the likes of Brian's flock and John's flock is doing, is we get in the most genetically connected rams right around the country, right from all these Lamb Plus flocks, and we put them in here and we compare them against each other. And when we do that linkage, we introduce the ram and compare right across. So if we then put in this ram and look at our comparisons, we then say, which is the best performing ram now? And straight away we start to see, okay, right, well the purple's outproducing the red one, okay, the purple's outproducing the blue one, right, so the blue one is getting bet by the purple. Next thing we don't look at the green, which we took no notice of in the last one, and the green is outperforming the purple here, which makes me think, if the green had been in farm 2, where would the green be off the charts at the moment? So it's taken out, just because farm 1 isn't as maybe intensive as farm 2, doesn't mean that genetics isn't as good, if not better, in them farms. So this is where, when you'd go to a sale and you'd see a ram and he's like, oh sure, how could this massive 100 kilo ram lamb here possibly be a 2-star? Them lads haven't a clue. It takes all that information into account. And same with their 5-star, if we see a lighter ram that's here and he's maybe grass fed and wouldn't be pushed on as hard for the sale, he's a 5-star, and he's maybe from a yard that's consistently bred 2 lambs over the last number of years and plenty of milk, but just he's not getting as intensely fed, he's grass fed and he's coming along a lot slower, but it doesn't mean he won't leave more profit for you than a big heavier ram. So look, it is important to take that into account with our urostar figures, to look at that. So the green farm produces the better growth rate. And main thing we need to look at here, and you need to be always thinking of when you're looking at rams and looking at information, it's all about, if we look at using a 5-star ram, so many people think, oh, I used a 5-star ram last year and I saw no difference in my lambs. If you use a 5-star ram, it's not about, oh, instantly my lambs the following year are less dirty and they're growing faster and they're out the door, okay? The 5-star ram is over progress of genetics over a number of years. It's him coming in, his lambs being a little bit better, keeping daughters from them. His daughters are scanning a little bit better than what you had. His daughters then have a little bit more milk, which means their lambs have a little bit more again. It's on the averages keep creeping up all the time. It's like what Stephen was saying, how he kind of bred his flock over time to develop that up. It's not going to be a one fix, buy a 5-star ram and you have better lambs. It's consistency, breeding them over a long period of time, and consistently sticking to 5-star rams, and they will produce more profit for you. So just what are we looking at? So what do we really want the ram to do, being the first question. So we want a ram we've all maternal type ewes, and we want a ram that for factory lambs, just a big terminal. We look at the terminal side. If we want a replacement ram where we have mainly our maternal ewes and we want to keep our replacements from this guy, we look at the more replacement index on that. And again, taking into account what Stephen said earlier in terms of having a look at the sub-indexes as well and making sure that you know what your flock is missing. So this is a typical catalogue that you'll see. This will be at most of the sales now, as most of the flock books are with us. We have our terminal value here. So this is our 5-star terminal ram, and that's generally made up primarily of sub-indexes of the lamb survivability and our days to slaughter having the biggest effect. So if you have a lot of maternal type ewes and you're looking for a big strong ram that'll produce good factory, good growth rate lambs for you, our terminal side, days to slaughter, and of course survivability, because he can have all the great growth rates in the world, but if the ram is dead, he's not going to grow too fast for you. So it's important that survivability is always kept up. In terms of our replacement then, you can see there's higher levels to this. So in your replacement index, you're looking at the overall replacement index itself, again survivability, which is hugely important, and then our number of lambs born and daughters milk is having an effect here as well. So again, if you just looked at the top figure and said, okay, I'm going purely for replacement index, the number of lambs born and daughters milk, it's important to know where, if you're lacking a bit of number of lambs born each year, maybe be looking at that area when you're selecting your rams to ensure your number of lambs born goes up all the time. So just Lamb Plus updates that we've seen. So there's been 8% increase since 2023 in the amount of flocks that have signed up to Lamb Plus. So look, that's hugely positive. SAS has made a difference for that. So the sheep improvement scheme, people looking for 5-star rams. So again, it's got more farmers involved, which again means more data coming into our database, which again means more accurate information, and that's going back out to you as commercial farmers, and that is making a difference as well. 92% of stock rams in Lamb Plus are genomically tested now. So look, we have DNA basis. That's basically one of the envies of the world in terms of the information that we have on the stock rams that are being produced right around the country. And so 33% or 33,000 pedigree lambs were recorded every year with Lamb Plus. So that's an awful lot of rams, and 8,000 of these are gene aid as well. So look at the huge amount of information that goes in there, goes in annually, and the work that's been put in by our Lamb Plus flocks and by the commercial flocks every year. It's making huge benefits and really increasing the accuracy that we have. We saw over the years, especially in the early years of Sheep Ireland, we're developing up and we're trying to build up as much information as we could. We're now at a level where we're starting to really make hay with it. The DNA has really increased our accuracies. We're not as inclined to see stars moving up and down to the degree that we would have on the early days when we were trying to develop that baseline that we now have. So genotype milestones. So we have 100,000 genotypes currently used on a weekly genetic evaluation. So look at 100,000 genotypes is a huge milestone for us to get there. It was a lot of work and a lot of effort put in by the team and by all the breeders. So it results in 10 years of hard work by everyone within Teagasc, within everything. So it was a huge milestone for us, and it'll only stand as we are one of the envies of the world for the amount of genotypes we now have on our sheep. It's the number of lambs genomically tested by birth year. You can just see it here, where it's gone from when we started in 2009, 2010 to where we are now. It's been just a huge increase. So the other percentage then is just the lambs born in Lamb Plus from 2023. So you can see here we've nearly 100% of some of the flock books at the moment. The Belclare Society nearly 100% there as well, right down to even some of our newly established kind of Zorbal flocks and the Dutch Spotted and these ones that are recently developed the flock books in Lamb Plus, and we've seen an increase in them every year as well. So look, we have the majority of the flock books, we have the majority of the sheep, and we have, even where we don't have all these flocks in, the percentage of lambs is very, very high. That's recording with Lamb Plus. And that's very positive to see that, look, this information is working, and that we've seen from our own sale at the Tullamore sale of commercial buyers coming back every year because they are making a difference. Commercial farmers are smart. They will, if they felt that this wasn't working, they wouldn't be using them, and they'd be going off buying what they want. But they see they're using the rams, and they're using them consistently, and it is making a difference for them. And we're seeing that by consistently coming back looking for rams with high stars. So look, it is working. Just a small bit on the sheep improvement scheme. Look at it. It is out now. It was a scheme that was introduced just last year in 2023. 20 million budget for it. 19,000 farmers have signed up to it. What do they need to do? So every farmer must purchase a Sheep Ireland genomically tested sire in the first 3 years. Flocks over 150 ewes need to buy 2 rams. Okay, that's over the 5-year period. There must scrape 1, 2 or 3. Again, this isn't much of an issue really in the likes of your lowland flocks. There's very few animals now that are 4 and 5. On the hillside, it's a bit on the higher side. Lowland flocks, then he must be 4 or 5 star in either the replacement or the terminal index. So when we say 4 and 5 star, we're talking percentiles. So if he is a 4-star ram, he's in the top 40% of his breed. That's how it works. If he's in the 5-star, he's in the top 20% of the breed. So by increasing the 4 and 5-star rams in the country, we're taking the top 40% of rams and getting them into commercial farms, so that you can see these rams and how they perform for you, and hopefully increase the genetic merits within the flocks nationally, and hopefully keep that encouragement going. On the hill flock side then, they must buy a sire verified ram. So the ram himself must be genotyped and his sire must be genotyped, and linking the two together. It's not as hard work, you'd say, to produce them as the lowland side, but for hillmen, it's a huge step forward. Performance recording on the hillside is increasing. We have a number of flocks recording this year, which is great to see, but it is obviously it's a more practical restraining aspect for them. But hill flocks can also go and buy a lowland ram as well, so it is an option for them, where a lot of hill flocks might want to buy a blue-faced Leicester or a Texel or a different rams of this to cross on their black-faced ewes. They have this option as well. So just on the last slide then, just for what can genetics deliver, as this is the area you want to look at. So we did this from CPT farms, that their 5-star ewes versus our 1-star ewes. Our 5-star ewes were weighing nearly 0.2 of a lamb more, and they're getting them weigh 8 days quicker. So that's just small aspects. We can do that from levels of mortality to levels of lamb and difficulty to ewes milk. They all have their own aspects. These are just a couple that we picked out here. On all these areas, the 5-stars are outperforming the 1-stars. From a kind of more grass-based system or a per hectare basis, we have our genomic levels. So our 1-star ewes are producing 27 euro per ewe, where our 5-star ewes are about 45 euro per ewe. Again, that's taken into account lamb mortalities, it's taken into account ewes milk, the whole aspect of that, the amount of level of feeding or looking after, or if we have a bunch of lambs at the end, what produce them lambs, and recording it all the way through to slaughter. So that's what the farms are doing here. All the commercial data we have coming in is coming from that. So it's mainly based off commercial data. And look, at the other side of it is our sustainability model. The environment is hugely important, and we as sheep farmers need to keep into account on that as well. So the CO2 levels from our test with Teagasc and the methane emission chambers that have been done on a lot of the both pedigree and commercial flocks, we're seeing lesser levels as well. More testing, obviously, we need to continue to test this over a long period of time to get that information. So the key message really is consistently selecting 5-star rams is the key to it. You can also look at levels yourself, where if you wanted to start performance recording your own ewes, like what Brian does and what John does, you can do this to all different levels, depending on what you want to get from it. If you want to just know your parentage at birth, where you're tagging your lambs at birth, and then knowing what ewes are producing your big lambs and what ewes are producing your smaller lambs or your lesser lambs, the back end, up to the level that Brian is doing, where he's weighing them at 3 or 4 different intervals. Especially if you're going to invest in the brilliant crates that Cotters have and the different aspects, you're putting that into good use and feeding it back in, that it's not just a weight you take in a day, it's what links right up. And I know, especially with all the new technologies we have with the tags that are available through Cormac tagging and the different aspects, putting them tags to good use, put them in early into the lambs, link it to the mothers, and get that information, that you're not just putting a tag into a lamb's ear and sending it to the factory that evening and saying, geez, I didn't get much value for that tag at that particular time. When we put them in, as Brian has in all his lambs, we can feed it right back and get so much information from our flocks. And that's available to all commercial farmers. Anyone that's looking to sign up, geez, we're only delighted to help you out and get you going. So just in the last couple of messages then, is monitoring flock performance has huge benefits. Being able to figure out what ewes have your high mortalities, what ewes are not producing the milk, as Stephen gave examples for, what ewes are kind of not producing, that are big heavy ewes, that let's say you have a 70 kilo ewe that Stephen has perfectly there, and she's weighing 2 35 kilo lambs, and then you have a 90 kilo ewe, she needs 2 lambs at 45 kilos to do the same job, to cover her body weight. And in most cases what we're finding is that 90 kilo ewe is probably having lambs maybe from 30 to 35 to 40, and she's not covering that extra weight to be the value. So being able to monitor that and see, you can have a lighter ewe producing the same amount and the same percentages as a big heavy ewe. And look at that, that's important to do it. 5-star rams will increase flock productivity long term. And long term is the way we need to look at this. That it's not a case of use that 5-star ram, he breeds the lambs and I didn't see any difference. Sure, them lads haven't a clue what they're at. It's like, it does work. Long term, keep selecting it. We have a lot of farms. We're not basing this off a pedigree farmer with 20 lambs. We're basing this off thousands and thousands of commercial lamb data, feeding it back in. And consistency is key. Consistently selecting that information. Don't give up when they say it didn't work 1 year, forget about it. I said, we always use the analogy of going to the gym. On a day, if you go to the gym one day and you look in the mirror, you'll see no difference. If you go a second day, you'll see no difference. But there'll come a time, over time, where it could be a few months, could be a few years, you'll start to say, geez, I look great. And that's how your flock will be, is you consistently use the right rams and know what you're breeding, and that will have the big difference for you on your commercial flock. So look, I hope that wasn't too long. I know it's late. Look, thanks a million for anyone. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Round of applause, please, lads.